right, we're back at it again. Time for another FTP Podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by the letter C and the number 7. I'm just messing with you. All right, we'll get things started and get rolling. We got a plunge of football to talk about. All that coming up. Let's get jumping into it after this.
This is the FTP Podcast.
All right, so NFL training camp is here. Is the NFL season. Finally, I have been waiting. Oh, the summer break is so long, so depressing. But it's back. Things are getting cranked up. But everyone's getting excited. This is the time of year everyone thinks their team is going to the Super Bowl. You have the perfect roster at this time of year every year. But everybody needs to pump the brakes a little bit. Take a second. Take a deep breath. Remember, most teams haven't even hit full speed yet. You guys coming back from injuries. They may have had the pads on for one day. Pump the brakes. Let's at least wait till the first preseason game. Let's let some guys, make a roster first before we start getting your hopes up too high. There's been some good reviews of Mariota coming out of Tennessee. He's been, quote-unquote, mistake-free so far, which is a good sign for them. Overall, Jameis Winston's been named the starter already. That's a good sign for him there. Those are two of obviously the big names that everyone's watching for. There have been some good reviews for a lot of different guys going around the NFL right now. But like I said, I'm not into the whole camp reviews and all this stuff. There's a lot of guys that go to these training camp things for the media and they watch these camps and they start ordaining guys. They've turned a corner. He's going to be a lockdown corner, or he's going to be a difference maker. And they don't know what the hell they're looking at or what the hell they're talking about. Obviously, I can't be at all 32 training camps, so I can't watch everything. So some of the stuff we're going off secondhand account, don't believe it. I'll wait till I can watch this guy on the field before I buy into anything. Because you get these guys that go there and they start ordaining guys as, oh, look, he's doing this, he's having a phenomenal camp, and then he gets cut. And there's clearly a reason why he was cut. Or then he makes the roster and he does nothing. So you can't take everything or just word of mouth. You need to wait, hold up. It's easy for guys, especially like OTAs. That's my biggest pet peeve. OTAs, and people start, I'm so excited to see what he can do. Playing touch football is completely different than playing tackle football. And essentially, that's all OTAs is. I don't care what you did on the field in OTAs. I want you to learn the plays. Now, come training camp, now I want to see you do something. Just my opinion, but hey, most people say I'm crazy anyway. Some other NFL stuff. Russell Wilson got the big money deal. We talked about him last week, and I told you they had to pay the man. And now he's the second highest paid quarterback in the league behind only Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, they had to pay him. There was no way they could let him walk, because if you let him go, you put your franchise back years. Oh, that gives me shivers just thinking about it. You can't let a guy like that walk out. Bobby Wagner was a guy, he was doing some tweeting after Russell got his deal. He inked a new deal already, and he is now the highest paid middle linebacker in NFL history. I guarantee you that put the Carolina Panthers on notice, because Luke Kuechly's up next, and he's going to get some money, because that boy right there can play some football. And not to say, I'm not taking anything away from Bobby Wagner. Very talented guy. He's made his impact felt since he was a rookie. And if you're going to debate the top middle linebackers in the league right now, Bobby Wagner is definitely in the conversation, but so is Luke Kuechly, and that's why the Panthers definitely need to be paying attention. Junior Gillette, I kind of glanced over it. I don't even know if I remember if I mentioned it last week about the Saints cutting him, and that's a situation with off-the-field issues. He's had off-the-field questions since he was in college. And now these things have just really started to spiral. I think he's a guy, there's a lot of guys in the NFL who just don't know when to quit, when to shut up. He's one of them. He got another opportunity. He's now signed a deal with the Redskins to get to Washington. And that's awesome for him. He got a 1-year deal. It's a prove-it deal. He can go out there, he puts up numbers, and if he stays on the right track, he could get, paid again for another team or possibly stay in Washington. But when he signs the 1-year deal and then he goes and makes the comments of, I'm happy to be with a functional franchise or a stable franchise, whatever it may be, that shows me that he's still immature, and he wouldn't be a guy that if I'm managing a team that I would want to invest a large sum of money in, because that's dangerous. Plain and simple. You don't know what he's going to do. Tom Brady's planning on suing the league. I'm so sick of talking about Deflategate. It's the same foolishness. It is what it is. Tom, if you were innocent, you should have just gave him the cell phone and skipped all the foolishness. If you did it, you did it. You cheated. Deal with it at this point. I'm so sick. I've talked about it. We've talked it to death. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. All right. Sheldon Richardson, he's back in trouble in New York. And it's just another guy. Can't seem to keep things straight off the field. Very talented on the field, but this is the time of year where things start happening. Brandon Boykin got traded to Pittsburgh. This is going to be a good deal for them. He wanted to be a starter, and he was sick of being classified as a slot guy in Philadelphia. So Pittsburgh traded for him, and now he's probably going to be, at the very least, he'll be their slot corner, but he's definitely going to be in contention to have a starting job for them. And I like Brandon Boykin. He's a very talented corner. I don't think he's necessarily a guy who should only be classified as one thing. I think he's a very talented cover player. Now, I was talking about this with someone earlier this week. I don't necessarily think being classified as a slot corner is disrespectful in today's NFL. I think at this point in the landscape that the league is today, being a slot corner is a starting position for the most part. Most teams play with 3 receivers consistently. So you're going to play starter minutes. So more than likely, and you can command starter money. Look, Buster Skrine is going to be the 3rd corner in New York, and he got paid starter money to do that. So being a slot corner isn't the end of the world. I think it's just a different world. Normally, the type of receivers that you see in the slot are a little bit different than the types of receivers that line up on the outside. Normally, they're a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker. So you need a guy who can do that. And normally, guys that are 6 foot don't have quick enough hips to run with a guy that's normally in the slot. Because they're quicker, they're going to be able to create that separation that way, as opposed to those guys with longer legs who have longer strides. So it's just a different way of playing things, a different way of looking at things. And obviously playing in the slot, you have a two-way go. The receiver can go left or right and have room to work, as opposed to if you're on the outside, you always have the boundary to help you out. So it's just a little bit different, but I don't think being a slot corner is the end-all, be-all. I think it's in today's NFL, you're basically still a starter. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with some more news coming up. Stick around.
This is the FTP Podcast.
All right, wrestling icon Roddy Piper passed away. He was 61 years old, and he was huge. I remember watching him as a kid coming up. He was a huge part of the WWE success. He was diagnosed with lymphoma in 2006. But in November, he was declared cancer-free. His family confirmed that he was still cancer-free at the time of his death. This is rough. Obviously, a lot of us grew up watching him, so he's been an icon. It's sad to see him go. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with a little bit more news and notes.
I'm the kind of guy, I guess I'm real proud of my sport. That's the first thing I want to say. For 16 years, probably kept me out of jail when I was a kid, and the WWF has done more for me than anything in the world. But I've made a decision. I'm in the peak. Of course I'm in the peak of my career. But I'm going to Hollywood, and I'm going out, man. I'm going to give it 110%. Anytime I ever fought, I gave 110%. And sometimes you guys chucking eggs at me, and sometimes you weren't. Sometimes you're chucking roses. It didn't matter to me. I give 110% then, and I give 110% at anything I do. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give it a try. And I'm kind of a gutsy guy.
We're proud of you, Roddy. Very proud of you.
Thanks. I try hard.
You are now listening to the sounds of the FTP Podcast.
All right, Ronda Rousey was back at it. She dedicated her title fight to the late Roddy Piper. He even allows her to use the nickname, so she's Rowdy Rhonda, and she went on a spree. She won in 34 seconds. TKO. It took her longer than her previous two victories, 16 and 14. So I guess if that's the case, she's not getting better. But 34 seconds, come on, that's crazy. All right, the NFL Pro Hall of Fame, they've changed their stance on allowing the speaker of deceased inductees. They're going to let Junior Seau's daughter, Sydney, speak on his behalf at the enshrinement ceremony next week. That's big because that was definitely controversial. And obviously, you know, her dad being such a huge figure during his playing time, he was an icon. We'll take a look at the 2015 class of Hall of Famers next week. All right, moving on. Team World defeated Team Africa 101-97. The highlight of the game was when Akeem the Dream and Dikembe Mutombo took the court briefly in the second quarter. Team captains Luau Dang and Chris Paul shared the MVP award. All right, let's talk a little baseball. The MLB trade deadline has come and gone. And pretty much so is this podcast because I'm just about out of time. As always, we always find time to squeak in our moment in sports history. Let's go all the way back to 1938, the first test of a yellow baseball. This was Dodgers versus Cardinals, and obviously they decided that yellow was just not going to do it, and a white ball was the best. All right, thanks again. You know, as always, we appreciate you listening. Stick around. We'll be back next week. We need you to peep us on social media. Type in From the Press Box. We pop up. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just type in From the Press Box. You'll find us. Twitter, it's at FTP_tweets. You also need to go subscribe on the YouTube, youtube.com/FromThePressBox, and check us out on SoundCloud. As always, tune in next week. I'm out.